We have a position on an assault weapons ban and a large 30-round clip.
You know, I don't know enough about it at this point. Like
What is your
I had said
personal view
earlier.
of it, since you have been endorsed by the NRA?
I think that there's a Second Amendment. I think that, first of all, let me say, I have a 5-year-old in kindergarten. I cannot imagine what these people are going through and will be going through the rest of their lives. I think that we need to take a look at the laws we have. Somebody said, actually it was a gentleman, excuse me, that testified yesterday, and his son was killed. It was the parents. And he was talking about really civility and holding people accountable. And he said there was a man in Greenwich, I believe, and he had a machine gun. And machine guns are outlawed. They're banned. You cannot have a machine gun. So the man went out in his backyard and shot around, I don't know how many it was. And he got arrested. He was charged with 15, 20, 25 counts of all these illegal things that he had done, and he got held to. That's where I think the problem is. As I said before,
Yeah.
I think you need to be accountable. Whatever the law is, I think we need safety in schools. My daughter, kindergarten, my 12-year-old, your kids, I think they need to be safe.
So how do you keep Adam Lanza accountable? How do you make him accountable?
What laws can you keep?
How do you make his mother accountable?
Well, I mean,
Obviously you
I've
can't
heard,
now.
I know this to be true, that the Newtown school system identified him as having, whatever mental, psychological, whatever problems he had, and the mother would not accept it and took him out of that school at certain points and homeschooled him. At a certain point, I agree with an assault weapon. We have an assault weapon ban in Connecticut. We have one in Connecticut. My problem, well, I have many problems, but one problem, I don't know if any of you saw a few weeks ago in the New York Post when New York and Governor Cuomo signed their gun bill, that big picture of that gun that was literally this big, and they showed 2 pictures of the gun, and it's the same exact gun. Any of us, I don't know a lot about guns. I know a little about them, I don't know a lot. So it was a big gun, and it was clearly some sort of rifle assault. I don't know what it was, but it was a big gun, and it was the same exact gun in both pictures, but one had a pistol handle and one had a different handle. I don't know what they call it. And in that law that New York was in such a rush to pass, okay, one of those is allowed and one is not. And it's the same exact gun, it's just a different handle. And I know in Connecticut we have laws similar to that. There's 4 or 5 things that you have to have on these assault weapons to count as assault weapons, and otherwise they're not. So those are, I think, the kind of things that we have to clarify so we know what we're doing and we know what we want to ban. I don't think we necessarily know we know what we want to ban, but those things aren't all.
An assault weapon is a made-up term. It's not an assault weapon. It's a regular gun. It may be painted black. You put a flash suppressor on, you put a pistol grip on. It's the same gun. It shoots just as many bullets. You pull the trigger
And
once,
it's capable
it
of
shoots one bullet.
selective fire too.
It shoots one bullet. They're all semi-automatics. Can't own an automatic gun in the United States.
So
It's
it
against the
doesn't
law.
matter.
Actually, you
So,
can.
well, if you have a permission, you gotta get special permission.
Free
But-
1980.
But it has to
Most
do with
everybody-
the magazine and the things and those different things on it,
It's a
right?
made-up term that means nothing. You paint the gun camouflage, you change the pistol grip on it, it's legal. It shoots the same bullets, same power, same everything.
Right, and I don't get that.
Yeah, so
Like, that makes no
it
sense.
just makes people feel
It's
better.
cosmetic
Right.
feature.
Does no
But
good at all.
But just those cosmetic changes put it either in or out
It
of the
scares
assault
people.
weapon.
But in Connecticut, they can
So-
get somebody 10 years in jail
Right,
for having a
Useless.
folding stock.
and it
with a
means nothing.
detachable
It didn't
magazine.
stop him from killing those kids, didn't do
I
anything.
know, we need, a bunch of us went up to the Department of Public Safety and they showed us some of these things. Like I said, I know a little bit about guns, but not a lot. And they showed us differences that we're talking about now, and I don't, see the difference. If we feel that XYZ gun should be in a category wherein it's not allowed in Connecticut, then the handle shouldn't make a difference. And that's all.
My wife's a teacher in Ansonia High School, and they have what they call a resource officer there. He's
Right.
been there for years. He's an armed policeman, fully trained, and he's there on the premises all day long.
Seymour's
I
has
tell you,
them, my
yeah.
brother-in-law was the one
That's
in
what you
Seymour,
need.
Derby has them, you know,
That'll
Amity's
stop
had one
them.
for many years.
How is it gonna stop them? How
Because
think about
they'll be
how many
afraid
minutes
to
it
go
takes
there.
to reverse
They only
that
go
school?
where there's no
10
guns.
minutes? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, yeah,
He won't
but
be
he's not, he's gonna go where there's no
And if
guns.
someone's determined enough,
I know.
no law's gonna stop.
Right.
That's right, and
Right.
you know what, if it's
And that research
Chester,
shows
Exactly.
those
No
people
law's
that
gonna
have a
stop them,
gun,
no
and, you know, and then
bans.
you get into the whole mental health.
Exactly.
It's just a whole huge, as we know.
I think the
group.
mental health part is a
is-
very important part of it, as far as getting your pistol permit and getting guns, I think that
Yeah.
needs to be changed and tightened up.
In terms of this issue, one of the things that I'm concerned about is what New York did. We've had public hearings beforehand on this issue, and many people have had an opportunity to speak, but no one knows what those specific outcomes are gonna be in terms of bills. And there's been talk from the people who are at the leadership of those committees that they intend to form those bills, never have a public hearing, and ram them through in the middle of the night.
That's
That's
what
all.
they're gonna do in Connecticut.
Well, let me say,
Everyone should have an opportunity to speak.
no question, and that's why yesterday that hearing went till 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
But there won't be another hearing once we know what is proposed.
I don't know why, I mean, I don't, I
Many of the
can't
people that are
imagine,
proposing
I
these
never heard
laws
that, we have hearings
don't
on
know
all
anything about
proposed
guns.
bills. But we have hearings on all proposed bills.
Will we? Because many of your peers have suggested that we won't.
Well, let me tell you a quick little story. Obviously, the Republicans are in the minority, so each committee, the chairmen are always the majority party, so the Democrats, and the ranking members are the leaders of the minority party on that committee. So on this gun task force, all the chairmen are Republicans and Democrats, and we're on equal ground. So, you know, the Republicans we're not used to that. So we're equal chairmen, is my point, the Republicans and Democrats, on this gun task force. So one of my colleagues came in last week and said to Representative Kafera and me, you know, listen, Senator, I'm not gonna give a name, but one of the Democrat senators said, listen, we shouldn't allow people to speak on this. I mean, on this task force that we had yesterday. And of course, we said, what, are you crazy? We have public hearings as to whether you should go to the bathroom twice in one day. Yeah, but I mean, I don't mean to diminish it, but we have public hearings on everything that go, I've been there till 3, 4, 5 in the morning for hearings. Why would you even think that we shouldn't have that on that? So that was a Democrat chair. So, you know, we sent her back, we're like, under no circumstances, you know she was, no, I told her, there's no way we're gonna do that. Fast forward to yesterday, I had a friend of mine from Woodbridge, she was going up to testify with actually one of the families from Newtown. And she said to me, she said, Themis, I'm concerned because I heard that, she called me Friday, she was so-and-so would like to testify, and I heard that the Republicans don't want to let people testify, which of course made my head spin off my neck, because first of all, I don't know who would ever even say that. Like that Republican or Democrat, I've never heard anybody say we should have a hearing and they shouldn't be able to speak. You know, that's unheard of. I mean, the one thing we do, we have these hearings. So the fact that somebody had spun that and said it was, you know, our thing, I mean, obviously there was testimony because it went till 3 in the morning.
But that testimony is before we know what the bills are.
Right, I don't know why it would be different than any other bill.
Testimony
Is-
after the bills are proposed, so that people know what's on the table.
Right. I mean, I don't agree with that at all. I mean, what I'm saying is if that happens, I don't agree with that at all. I don't know, sometimes we have these bills called e-certifications, emergency certifications,
Which is exactly what has been proposed.
right, which are determined that the bill has to be called so fast and it's such an important thing that we can't have a public hearing, which quite frankly, a lot of times is just a way to get around having a public hearing. You know, I'll tell you this, you know, I will guarantee you that we would not support that. If that's the case, obviously the majority party rules, but we would not support that.
Does anybody give any consideration to the fact that what happened in Newtown would not have been prevented by a background check because the person that did it was not using guns that he went and bought, got them somewhere else? That's one point. The other point is almost always these wackos that do things, or criminals, are people that don't give a hoot about the law. Okay?
Right.
And so you could have all of these laws. Do these people really think that by initiating these laws, it's going to cut down on this? Because I
You
think
can't buy
that's...
them, you
No,
can't
well,
use
sir, let me
them.
just say this to you. on the first day of session, when I was doing some interviews and somebody said, what do you think you're gonna do? I said, I don't know, because I'm gonna sit there and listen to all the testimony and figure out what we could possibly do. But what I don't wanna do is change a law because it looks good on paper, okay? Just like the New York law, that two same exact guns, but one is legal and one's illegal just because there's a different handle. I don't wanna do that, because just because it sounds good and it feels good, if it doesn't change anything, I'm not interested in doing it. And unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of times in the legislature. You know, I do believe that some of these things, I mean, it gives us the opportunity to look at every word in our gun laws and see what we can do to make things, you know, more efficient. But I agree, I mean, we're all old enough to know that sometimes bad things just happen no matter how we try and stop them. But it's our job to do everything we can to try and stop them.
And if a law is different in Virginia or Florida or somewhere than here, you know, people drive 95 all the time. So we can have one thing here and they come from another state. There was a gentleman. Did you have a question, sir?
I had a comment, not a question. I was thinking the gentleman behind me would certainly appreciate if he could finish what he was saying without being interrupted by your colleague.
I'm sorry. I apologize, I didn't realize you weren't finished.
I recall it clearly.
Oh, I apologize.
Except-
Okay. Aileen?
I'm just
Except-
curious.
Thank you.
And it would move the meeting along much more efficiently if that were the general rule. Let someone finish what they were going to say before you interrupt them, or what. We certainly respect your opinion and agree with most of it. Let him speak. Let him speak.